Tomorrow is a really special day. It is the 1-year anniversary of when I wrote my Trump rally article that started all of this. So as I'm recording this is February 10th, 2021, and a year ago, actually right this second, I was sitting in the SNU Arena in Manchester, New Hampshire, waiting for Donald Trump to speak at a rally and wondering, what in the holy hell am I doing here among all these crazy Trump supporters? And the next day I came back, I wrote an article about my experience of being a Democrat for 20 years that went to a Trump rally and posted it on Medium, not really thinking anything would ever happen with it. And a lot did. Let's just say that. A lot did. I'm going to do a different kind of reflection video tomorrow on it because, oh my God, like, honestly, if you had told me that this would be my life a year ago, I never, ever, ever, ever would have believed you. But the thing of it is like, my story is not that unique. It's not. Like, let's just be honest. It is not that unique. People walk away from the Democratic Party all the times, and they all have their own reasons for it. And I just found it really apropos that this article came up from the Daily Caller. I'm a Democrat, but it's time to leave the party. This happens every day. People walk away from the Democratic Party every day. This one is written by this dude right here, Brian Dean Wright, former CIA officer, conservative Democrat. Well, not anymore. Pragmatic thinker, allergic to DC egos. So I thought that, this is like the perfect time. I'm going to do a little reaction to this article to find out about his experience, see how that overlapped with mine, and we're going to go from there. But before we read this article, if you guys enjoy the types of videos that I do on this channel and you're not yet subscribed, or if you think you're subscribed and just haven't double checked in a minute, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I do content every single day during the week. I tend to take the weekends off around news, politics, culture, really anything I find interesting. I mean, in the year that I've been doing this, my whole philosophy with this channel is that I'm going to talk about things I find interesting and I'm going to have fun with it. I'm going to do stuff that makes me happy and hopefully you enjoy it along the way. So if you are enjoying it, just your quick reminder to subscribe to the channel so we can counteract YouTube deleting hundreds of subscribers every single night. If you really like it, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. I greatly appreciate it. All right, let's take a look at this article from Brian Dean Wright. As Democrats whip up a political circus in Washington, D.C. with the second impeachment of former President Donald Trump, they're focusing the nation's attention on the rhetoric that they allege incited violence at the Capitol on January 6th. Yet for those of us paying attention, we see through this absurdity. So I have to tell you guys, I watched a lot of the impeachment hearings today. It was basically just the Democrats presenting their case. Oh, dude. The amount of lies that these people told, I was getting heated at points. Like, they were straight lying. And one of the things I found grossly, like the most egregious lie of all, was they were talking about the violence that happened after the December Million MAGA March, which, as we recall, was precipitated by Antifa. They were the ones that started the violence in December. They were, of course, the ones that started the violence in November. But how the Democrats framed it was these evil Trump supporters came to town and they were the ones starting the violence. No mention of Antifa. No mention of what happened in November when Antifa and Black Lives Matter were attacking person after person, elderly, families, children, all these things. No mention of that at all. No mention of the months that these people spent rioting over the summer. And even in the impeachment trial today, they brought up, oh, they burned a church. These MAGA people, they burned a church, which of course is not actually what happened. A banner from a church was burned, but a church was not burned by MAGA people, whose name I'm not even allowed to say on this channel anymore because of feelings. But you know who did burn a church? Black Lives Matter. Back in DC in like May, they literally burned a church. Are the Democrats talking about that? No. So they are dirty, dirty liars. It is the left that is overwhelmingly responsible for the political violence and destruction that is hammering our great nation. Thank you! For years, Democrats like me have watched with increasing alarm as our own political leaders and activists, from Speaker Nancy Pelosi to media outlets like MSNBC, have used an endless stream of hateful, violent, and ultimately un-American rhetoric that has resulted in billions of dollars in economic damage and given birth to a violent national movement. Some of the earliest hatred coming from the party was one out of the mouth of Squad member Ilhan Omar in 2019. Not once but twice did she use anti-Semitic smears for the generations that have been used to marginalize Jewish people. And of course, was she removed from committees for that? No. Was Marjorie Taylor Greene removed from committees for saying wacky stuff years ago on video? Yep, of course, because rules for thee, but not for me in the land of the Democrats. But rather than condemn her vitriol and strip her of her committee assignments, it's like you mind meld with people who walk away from the Democratic Party, I swear. But rather than condemn her vitriol and strip her of her committee assignments, Democrats in the House, from Speaker Pelosi on down, chose a toothless resolution that broadly condemned hatred and avoided any mention of Omar herself. Of course, Omar is not alone in her bigotry. Sadly, there are other examples of it flowing through the base of the Democratic Party, suggesting that bigotry is systemic. Consider the campaign of now Vice President, Freudian slip, now Vice President Kamala Harris. When she was asked why Democratic Party voters failed to support her presidential bid, she gave voice to an uncomfortable truth. The elephant in the room about my campaign, she explained, was that her party was not ready for a woman and a woman of color to be president of the United States. And yet that didn't stop the party from voting for Joe Biden for president with her on the ticket, did it, Kamala? Vice President Harris was right, of course. Democratic voters were just too bigoted and hateful to support a woman of color for president, just as they were too bigoted and hateful to support another minority, Pete Buttigieg. Democratic primary voters in South Carolina put an end to the presidential bid of the openly gay man because he was a sexual minority. An internal memo from the Buttigieg campaign itself confirmed that many black Democrats in Palmetto State simply would not support a gay candidate. Later, Representative James Clyburn admitted as much, saying there's no question that Buttigieg's sexual orientation is an issue. In short, Democrats may blast others for bigotry, but unquestionably, it is they who peddle deeply and strategically in the stuff, which is of course true. I mean, like, anytime you hear a slur coming from anyone, it's from the Democrats. I have been called fat all freaking day on Twitter by leftists who don't like that I wore a mask that they did not like. Literally. It's like with these people, it's like, you want me to wear a mask? Okay, I'm wearing a mask. Oh, I'm not supposed to wear that mask. Oh, I understand. Not surprisingly, the systemic hatred that pulses through the modern left has inflamed profound political divisions and the predictable outcome that has come with them, most especially violence and destruction. The most egregious example came in the summer of 2020 with leftist race riots that cost upward of $2 billion in damage, which they called reparations, by the way. As the fires raged, property vandalized, and lives destroyed, Speaker Pelosi responded to her party's violent mob not with condemnation, but not so subtle encouragement. People will do what they do, she said of the destruction of a statue of Christopher Columbus. Meanwhile, the aforementioned Rep. Omar, freed from any consequence for her own bigotry, switched from attacking Jewish people to targeting police officers, of course. She told a crowd of supporters that the Minneapolis Police Department was a cancer that had to be amputated from the community like a sickened arm or leg. The result of incitement from Democrats is not surprising. A woman in New York City threw a Molotov cocktail at 4 police officers sitting in their vehicle during a riot. They were unharmed only because the gas bomb failed to ignite. Next, a group of rioters in Seattle tried to steal up the door of a police precinct and ignite the building on fire, burning cops alive. In all, over 700 state and local law enforcement officers sustained injuries in violence perpetrated by leftist rioters. That included retired St. Louis Police Captain David Dorn, who died defending the city he loved from those encouraged by the Democratic Party's incitement. To be clear, the list of victims of leftist hatred and violence is only set to grow. In the past several months, Democrats have stepped up an already audacious smear campaign against the Republican Party in an effort to target conservatives. There are legitimate white supremacist sympathizers that sit at the heart and at the core of the Republican caucus in the House of Representatives, claimed Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez recently and without evidence. And she was preceded in her rhetoric by Representative Maxine Waters, who famously demanded of her supporters, "You get out and you create a crowd. You push back on them. God," she added, "is on our side." Waters, in turn, was clearly unafraid to encourage physical assault because of Democratic senators like Chuck Schumer, who previously warned conservative Supreme Court justices and by extension conservative voters, "You have released the whirlwind and you will pay the price. You don't know what hit you." What emerges from the past 4 years, then, is a party leadership and political base that is utterly and unapologetically committed to bigotry and violence. What's more, wrapped up in this systemic bigotry and violence is an equally vicious assertion of the Democratic leadership that America is an awful, irredeemable country. "We're not going to make America great again," New York Governor Andrew Cuomo said back in 2018. It was never that great. Shouldn't it be like a requirement to hold elected office that you actually like the country that you're living in? I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not in favor of like legislating that, obviously, because that's dumb. But one would think that if you just don't like the place that you live in, why are you running for elected office to serve the people of that place? I just don't get it. It seems like not necessarily shouldn't be a legal requirement to say like the USA is a pretty great country to be in, but it should be like a moral requirement. What are you trying to do getting into the government of a place that you do not like? Like, why? Just go move somewhere that you do like. That makes a lot more sense to me than suffering and misery serving at the hands of a vicious state. I digress. We heard the same un-American language echoing in the left's political zeitgeist as the degenerated cultural icons like Mount Rushmore, historic presidents like Abraham Lincoln, and the entirety of American history with false or incomplete retellings of our nation's founding. The message from the left has thus been clear. America is awful and irredeemable. The solution they propose? Destroy it. That's certainly the message delivered by Democratic activists and friendly media outlets like NPR. They had the audacity to tell listeners, looting is a powerful tool to bring about real, lasting change in society. Meanwhile, CNN's anchors like Chris Cuomo have told viewers, show me where it says protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful, and so they weren't. Examples like this go on, a litany of leftist horrors in both word and deed. Taken together, the bigotry of the Democratic base, the violence encouraged by Democratic leaders, the actual physical harm perpetrated by hysterical followers, one can't help but escape from the obvious conclusion. The Democrat Party has become irredeemable. For Democrats like me, we have no choice. We have to leave. But where do we go? Politically, now that our party can no longer be salvaged, the answer is to be found in the exit data from the 2020 election. We're already leaving, it turns out, and joining the new, populist Republican Party. Well, I don't know about that, dude. I don't know that we can quite go that far. Now, believe me, I want the Republican Party to be a populist party. I want them to come around. I am just in a place right now where I'm watching what the Republican leadership is doing and how they've completely abandoned Trump and Trump's kind of philosophy about things. And I'm questioning whether or not that's actually going to happen. Who's going to win the Republican Party? Is it going to be the rhinos and the neocons, or is it going to be the populists? I really hope it's going to be the populists. I really, really do. I just don't know. We're going to have to see. That is left undetermined at this point. But look, cross our fingers, and maybe I will actually become a Republican after all if the populists do end up winning out. Despite the leftist narrative accusing the GOP of being racist, misogynistic, or homophobic, the Republican Party has attracted the most diverse coalition of voters since 1960. Diving into the numbers, Trump added more Black, Latino, Asian, and gay voters to the conservative populist movement than any other president or nominee in the party's recent history. And no matter what one thinks of Trump the person, the message and populism he advocated for resonates with voters. It was and remains unapologetically America first, anti-war, and pro-worker, focused on merit-based opportunity, judicial reform, strong borders, and an unwavering commitment to law and order. To state the obvious, the Trump coalition came up short in 2020. Well, you know. But the vision of an America that lives up to our national motto, out of many, one did not. And so this Democrat will take the sensible step as others before me. It's time to leave the hateful, violent, and un-American Democrat Party. The populist GOP is my new political home. Well, welcome to the world of the walkways, Brian Dean Wright. I don't know, man. It's been a year since I outed myself inadvertently as a walkaway, and I have to say, I've never looked back. Best decision I've ever made. So I'm sure that Brian is going to find a new home. I'm sure he's going to be welcome with open arms, even though the right is a little bit more dysfunctional now than it was a year ago. Well, let's not kid ourselves. A lot more dysfunctional. But listen, I have to take a message of optimism from this article, because if a Democrat, and you should take optimism from it as well. Listen, there are stories like this all the time. Me, this guy, every walkaway that's ever left the Democratic Party. People are waking up all the time. And I think this impeachment trial is going to wake a lot of people up. And I think 4 years of a Joe Biden presidency, that's going to dole out red pills left and right and center. Everyone's going to be taking a red pill, man. You're going to have a lot of this happening. And what the right has to do is welcome these people with open arms and start acting a little less crazy and doing a little less infighting, because you have to know you are actually on solid ground here. You really, really are. I know it doesn't seem like it right this second, but if you look at the lay of the land, zoom out, look at the big picture, the left is starting to eat itself. And that's only going to get worse. And when they do, we all have to stick together, whether we like it or not. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed reading this. It's like, that was a really good piece. He did a really good job. Maybe I can try to get him on the channel. I can certainly reach out and try. We'll see. In the meantime, that's all I've got for right now. I'll see you soon.